Some songs sound like love songs. Some sound like breakup songs. And some sound like somebody opened the wrong door at the wrong party and accidentally walked into a scandal. That's what we're talking about today. Songs that were secretly, partially, allegedly, or very obviously about famous affairs, complicated relationships, love triangles, and messy little chapters that musicians tried to disguise as art. And before we get into this, if you like the stories behind the songs, the ones with names, letters, rumors, backstage tension, and people pretending they were being mysterious when everyone in the room knew exactly who they meant, stick with me. This one gets messy in the best possible way. Because here's the thing about rock and pop history. Artists love saying, "Oh, it's not about anyone specific." Sure, and I'm sure the scarf-wearing actor at the party just happened to inspire a line by accident. The truth is, some of the greatest songs ever written were born from private chaos. Affairs, obsession, rejection, jealousy, marriages breaking down in slow motion. Famous people falling for people they absolutely should not have fallen for. And somehow, all that bad decision-making gave us some incredible music. Let's start with the love triangle that basically became its own wing of rock history. Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and Pattie Boyd. If rock music had a hall of fame for romantic disasters, this one would have its own velvet rope. Pattie Boyd was a model and photographer. She married George Harrison in the 1960s. She was part of the Beatles world, part of that whole London counterculture orbit, and she inspired some of the most famous songs of the era. George Harrison's Something is widely connected to Pattie Boyd, even though Harrison later complicated the story by saying, "People assume too much." But Pattie herself said George told her, very matter-of-factly, that he wrote it for her. Now pause there. Imagine being the person behind one of the most admired love songs ever written. That's already a lot. But then Eric Clapton, one of George Harrison's closest friends, falls in love with her too. Not casually, not quietly, obsessively. And instead of putting that feeling in a drawer like a normal person with boundaries, Clapton turns it into Layla. Now this is where the story gets deeper than just guy loves friend's wife. The title Layla comes from the Persian story of Layla and Majnun, a tale of obsessive, unfulfilled love. Clapton wasn't just writing, "I like this woman." He was framing himself as the tortured lover in a grand romantic tragedy, which is dramatic. Also, let's be honest, slightly convenient when you are in love with your friend's wife. The recording of Layla becomes its own strange miracle. Clapton brings in the emotional desperation. Duane Allman comes into the session and adds the slide guitar that gives the song its haunted, screaming quality. Then the piano ending gets attached from a completely separate piece of music written by Jim Gordon. So the song itself is stitched together, almost like the relationship behind it. Passion, chaos, beauty, and something that probably should not have fit together, but somehow did. Here's my question for you. Does knowing the real triangle behind Layla make the song more romantic or more uncomfortable? Because that's the thing with these stories. The music can be beautiful, but the reality behind it is often a lot messier than the melody. And this triangle didn't stay theoretical. Pattie Boyd eventually left George Harrison and later married Eric Clapton. But the fairy tale did not exactly hold. Clapton's later infidelity and struggles helped destroy that marriage too. So Layla begins as longing. But in hindsight, it sounds more like a warning. Now let's move to Fleetwood Mac, because if there is one band that could turn emotional destruction into platinum-selling product, it's Fleetwood Mac. And yes, we could talk about Go Your Own Way. We could talk about Dreams. We could talk about Silver Springs. But for this topic, the sharper story is Christine McVie's You Make Loving Fun, because this one is not just about a breakup. It is about an affair happening inside a band that was already basically a relationship crime scene. Christine McVie was married to John McVie, Fleetwood Mac's bass player. Their marriage was falling apart while the band was making rumors. At the same time, Christine became involved with Curry Grant, the band's lighting director. And then she wrote, You Make Loving Fun. Now, if you are John McVie and your wife writes a glowing, joyful love song while your marriage is collapsing, you might have questions. Reasonable questions. Like, who exactly is making loving fun? Christine reportedly told John the song was about her dog. Now that is either the boldest deflection in rock history or the emotional equivalent of hiding a bonfire behind a napkin. What makes the song fascinating is that it does not sound guilty. It does not sound tortured. It sounds happy. That is what makes it sting. Most affair songs sound dark, conflicted, or secretive. You Make Loving Fun sounds like someone found a window in a room that had been locked for years. And that puts the listener in a strange position. Do you judge the situation, or do you admit the song is gorgeous? That is the Fleetwood Mac problem in one sentence. The personal lives were chaos, the records were immaculate, and that tension is exactly why people still talk about Rumors, like it's not just an album, but a documentary with harmonies. Now let's talk about Carly Simon and the most famous musical guessing game of the 1970s, You're So Vain. This song is the Mount Everest of Who Is This About? For decades, people guessed. Warren Beatty, Mick Jagger, James Taylor, David Geffen. Every charming, powerful, self-admiring man of that era was basically standing in line saying, "It might be me," which is hilarious, because that is literally the point of the song. Carly Simon eventually confirmed that the second verse was about Warren Beatty, but not necessarily the whole song. That's the genius of it. She did not give away the entire map. She gave away one landmark, and honestly, that may be why the song has lasted so long. If she had said, "Yes, the whole thing is about this one person," the mystery would have ended. Instead, she let the audience keep playing detective. Now here's the deeper part. You're So Vain is not just a revenge song. It is a power reversal. The kind of man she is describing is used to being admired, desired, discussed, and centered, and Carly Simon flips that on him. She turns his vanity into the hook. The insult is elegant. Because if he thinks the song is about him, he proves the song right. That is songwriting judo. Let me ask you this. If you were one of the men rumored to be the subject, would you admit it? Because admitting it is basically standing up in a courtroom and saying, "Yes, Your Honor, I am exactly that vain." And yet some of them did seem oddly proud. That's what makes the song so sharp. It turns ego into evidence. Now, let's move to Joni Mitchell, because nobody wrote about intimacy, distance, and emotional contradiction quite like Joni. Coyote comes from her time around Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder Revue, and it has long been connected to playwright and actor Sam Shepard. Now, Sam Shepard was not exactly living a simple life at that point. He was married. He was also moving through this wild, creative caravan of musicians, writers, performers, and backstage relationships. Joni Mitchell joins that world and writes Coyote, which captures the feeling of a connection that is intense, temporary, and already slipping away while it is happening. That's what makes Joni different. She is not just writing, "I loved someone." She is writing the emotional physics of it, the motion, the distance, the knowing that this person belongs partly to someone else, partly to the road, and partly to whatever myth they are building around themselves. And Coyote does not sound like someone begging to be chosen. It sounds like someone observing the whole thing with her eyes wide open. That is what makes it powerful. She knows the situation is unstable. She knows the man is not fully available. She knows the road creates temporary intimacy that may not survive daylight. And she writes from inside that knowledge. So here's the question. Is Coyote a love song? Or is it a song about knowing better and doing it anyway? Because that might be one of the most honest categories in all of music. Now let's go back a little earlier and talk about one of the most beautiful breakup songs disguised as a grand romantic gesture. Sweet, Judy Blue Eyes by Crosby, Stills and Nash. Stephen Stills wrote it about Judy Collins. And this one is not exactly a secret if you know the title. Judy Blue Eyes is not subtle, but the deeper story is what makes it belong here. Stills and Collins had been together, but the relationship was ending. Judy Collins was moving on. She had fallen in love with actor Stacy Keach while working in theater. So Stills does what musicians do when they are devastated. He writes something enormous. Not a short breakup song, a suite, multiple sections, shifting melodies, acoustic guitar work, harmonies that sound almost too beautiful for the emotional wreckage underneath. And that's the strange thing. The song sounds bright, alive, almost joyful in places. But underneath, it is a man trying to process losing someone. There's a temptation to romanticize that. To say, he wrote this masterpiece for her, how could she leave? But that is not how love works, is it? A beautiful song does not fix incompatibility. And according to later accounts, Collins was moved by the song but did not return to the relationship because of it. That detail matters, because music can immortalize a feeling. It cannot force someone to stay. That's a hard truth, but it's one songwriters keep proving over and over. Now let's talk about another song wrapped in speculation. The Rolling Stones' Angie. For years, people have argued about who Angie is. Was it Angela Bowie? Was it Angie Dickinson? Was it Keith Richards' daughter? Was it just a name that sounded right? Keith Richards later said the name came to him before he even knew his daughter would be named Angela. He also said the song was not about one specific person, so this is where we have to be careful. Not every rumor is true just because it is interesting, but that is exactly why Angie belongs in this script. Not as a confirmed affair song, but as an example of how audiences attach famous names to emotional ambiguity. The song sounds intimate. It sounds like it should have a specific woman behind it, so people went looking for one. And when you have the Rolling Stones, David Bowie's Circle, 70s celebrity culture, and a name like Angie, the rumor machine practically builds itself. This is one of those cases where the legend may say more about the audience than the artist. We want songs to have secrets. We want the ballad to be a confession. We want the name to unlock the whole story. But sometimes a song is powerful because it refuses to give you that. So let me ask you, do you enjoy a song more when you know exactly who it's about? Or do you prefer the mystery? Because Angie survives, partly because people never stopped asking. Now let's bring in Leonard Cohen's Chelsea Hotel #2. This one is not hidden anymore, but it was once part of the private mythology of the Chelsea Hotel, a place where musicians, writers, artists, and chaos all lived under one roof. Leonard Cohen later said the song was about Janis Joplin. And if you know anything about the Chelsea Hotel in that era, that tracks. The Chelsea was less a hotel than a creative pressure cooker. People drifted in and out. Affairs happened. Songs happened. Careers rose and collapsed in the same hallways. Cohen's song is unusually direct, and later in life he expressed regret about naming Janis publicly. That regret matters, because once you reveal who a song is about, you take away their privacy too. Even if they're famous, even if the story is legendary, even if the song is brilliant, that's the uneasy side of these deep dives. We love knowing the backstory, but there is a cost to turning real people into permanent characters. Now let's return to Pattie Boyd for a moment, because she may be one of the most musically mythologized women of the 20th century. She is connected to George Harrison's Something. She is connected to Eric Clapton's Layla, and she is connected to Clapton's Wonderful Tonight. That is an unbelievable run of songs for one person to inspire. But it also raises a question. What does it feel like to be someone else's muse? From the outside, it sounds glamorous. From the inside, it may be more complicated. Because being a muse means people are constantly translating you into their feelings, their longing, their regret, their version of events. The song may be beautiful, but is it you? Or is it what they needed you to represent? That's the part we don't talk about enough. Pattie Boyd is often described through the men who wrote about her, but she had her own life, her own work, her own perspective, and her own cost in the middle of that triangle. And that is why these songs are still fascinating. They are not just about romance. They are about power. Who gets to tell the story? Who becomes the villain? Who becomes the muse? Who gets immortalized? And who gets flattened into a lyric? Now let's talk about why the 60s and 70s produced so many of these songs. Part of it is proximity. Everyone knew everyone. London rock circles were small. Laurel Canyon was small. Touring circles were small. Studios were social spaces. Parties were networking events, dating pools, and emotional disaster zones all at once. And fame intensified everything. Imagine trying to have a private breakup when your ex is in the same band, or your friend is married to the person you're in love with, or the person you wrote about is famous enough that everyone starts guessing immediately. That is the strange engine behind these songs. The secrecy is never complete. The public does not know everything, but the scene knows enough. And sometimes the song becomes the leak. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Some artists use secrecy as protection. Others used it as marketing. Carly Simon's mystery around You're So Vain helped keep that song culturally alive for decades. Fleetwood Mac's barely disguised relationship drama made rumors feel like a soap opera you could play on vinyl. Clapton's Layla gained mythic force because the real-life triangle was so outrageous. So are these songs great because of the backstory, or are we more obsessed with the backstory because the songs are great? That's the question. Because a scandal can get attention, but it can't make a weak song last 50 years. The music still has to hold, and these songs do. Layla has that desperate guitar cry. You're So Vain has that cool surgical insult. You Make Loving Fun has that glow of forbidden happiness. Coyote has that restless motion. Sweet, Judy Blue Eyes has those impossible harmonies. Chelsea Hotel #2 has the quiet sting of memory. Angie has the mystery. And Something has the tenderness before the triangle fully collapses into legend. That is why we keep coming back. Not because famous people behaved badly. Though, let's be honest, they did keep the drama department fully staffed. We come back because the songs preserve emotional moments that most people never say out loud. Longing for someone unavailable. Loving someone you shouldn't. Leaving someone who still loves you. Writing something beautiful after something ugly. Turning humiliation into a hit. That is why affair songs last. They are not really about gossip. They are about consequences. The secret eventually becomes sound, and once it's on the record, it doesn't go away. So now I want to ask you, which of these songs changes the most once you know the story behind it? Is it Layla, because the love triangle is almost too dramatic to believe? Is it You Make Loving Fun, because Christine McVie was singing joy right through the middle of a collapsing marriage? Is it You're So Vain, because Carly Simon turned ego into a lifelong guessing game? Or is it one of the rumored ones, where the mystery is the whole reason people still talk? Drop it in the comments. And tell me this too. Do you think artists owe us the truth behind a song? Or is the mystery part of the art? Because honestly, I'm not sure there's a clean answer. But I do know this. Some of the best songs in rock history were not born from peace. They came from temptation, bad timing, bruised egos, private rooms, wrong decisions, and people who probably should have known better. Luckily for us, they wrote it down. If you're just here to sit back, take in the drama, and let these old stories unfold, relax and spark one up. Keep that turntable spinning.